You are in this Senate race, running against Kyrsten Sinema. What is your top line criticism of her? She is.
Well, I mean, honestly, she's disconnected. You hardly see her in Arizona. And when she is here, she only is answering to the elites of Arizona. If you are an everyday constituent and you want to meet with Kyrsten Sinema, she will not give you that time of day unless there's a check attached to that. But, that's not just her. This is a problem with politicians all over this country nowadays. They don't meet with their constituents, right? I have a monthly town hall, and it is shocking the amount of constituents from other congressional districts that come to my town hall because their congressman is not talking to them. And so when Kyrsten hasn't had a town hall in 4 years, that's a problem. But the problem is she'll do things such as, vote to preserve, some of the benefits that the prescription drugs companies get, so they don't have to compete in their pricing. That's her prerogative to do it, but at least come back and explain yourself and talk to your constituents about it. And she never did that. So that's the most important thing. Her values are no longer aligned with Arizona values, and she's completely disconnected from them.
I think that one of the things in politics is that, and I'd like to get your reaction to this idea that we have outrun the labels that we attach. So you will be routinely described as a progressive. I spent most of my
and a socialist,
right, and I spent
now they're using pedo groomers or something like that.
Yeah, and I have all that, from opposing Trump, and was on the Trump bomber list, and all the crazy stuff. I spent most of my career in the Republican Party. I served in the Bush White House. I grew up in a tradition of moderate republicanism. I'm from the state of New Jersey, but I wonder, when we talk about progressivism today, what I hear you talking about is a rejection of corporatism and corruption of a system that I think is very badly broken, and I think very analogous to the period of time at the beginning of the 20th century where we had the launch of a progressive movement that really reoriented society and reweighted it on behalf of what you have termed the little guy against big. And so do you have a point of view as you kind of look out in politics that informs you about big tech, big banks,
Sure.
big defense, big pharma, big media, big politics? Because from where I sit, right, the days of making an investment in a stock, we're looking for value, competing against the technology, the traders, the machine, all of it, right? None of it is rigged to create a level playing field for the proverbial little guy.
Right.
And so talk about how you see the world from that perspective, if you would, without, as much as you can, the traditional kind of political labels of the moment.
Well, I think the most important thing to remember, being an anti-corporatist or anti-big corporation does not mean you're anti-capitalist. If anything, it is better for capitalism not to have these big corporations.
Of course,
they end up creating, monopolies, right? And monopolistic economies by nature are anti-capitalist and end up becoming, somewhat of a government entity onto themselves in terms of they're able to control power. And so what matters to me in my whole kind of perspective, when it is people versus corporations, people versus government, people versus your military industrial complex, is that that it cannot be slanted against the people, right? There's a reason why we have gotten together, as a country, and have decided that we are a, democracy, and of course, with our constitutional republic origins, and we have decided that we are going to be a hedge against the power of bigness, essentially. And so when there are rules that are stacked to basically help those that have a lot of power, whether it's elites, whether it's big corporations, whether it's politicians, it is the role, I think, of electeds like us to be the advocate, the fighters, and the lobbyists for those that can pay for it. And so I say this all the time. For example, pharma has 3 lobbyists for every member of Congress. 3. So there's 535 members of Congress. There's probably 1,600-ish registered pharma lobbyists.
And they spend how much lobbying a year?
$185 million a year lobbying.
In American money.
In American money. And that doesn't count what happens in states, right? So the little guy that wants to have cheaper drug prices, unless there is somebody fighting for them because they believe in actually being their advocate, their lobby, is never going to have a chance.
So I want to
been in this country for so long. There's a reason we have prioritized the profits of gross profits, because I'm not against profits. Again, you could be a capitalist in this society, but they've been more emphasizing gross profits for these companies than for taking care of people. In terms of even smaller companies, these companies get so big and become so monopolistic, it doesn't encourage capitalism because you can't even get in there because they have so much power. And then, so what happens, right? The whole system is corrupt because people can't compete and there's no competition. Corporations get lazy, but then also the consumer itself has less options. And so that causes inflationary prices to go up. So this is the perspective we should all keep, is there needs to be the balance. And the people that create that balance is people that are elected in office.
Now, one of the things I think is really interesting about you is the sense of gratitude that you have. And so you talked earlier about your parents, about being in an immigrant family. And so it's not until you get to Harvard and you get to a dorm room, which for 99.9999999% of your fellow Harvard students is a big come down arriving in that dorm room from wherever it is that they arrived from, almost universally so. But for you, this is a big step up. Tell us about that.
Well, it was the first bed that I had in about probably 8 to 9 years. So again, I'm very grateful for what this country has been able to do.
That's what I wanted. That's where I wanted to talk about the conversation, right? Your sense of gratitude, because I think there's so many people out there, young people. You say so much that the country gave me, but it didn't give you things, right? It did.
Give me opportunity,
right? Country gave you opportunity.
Yeah.
And you're a person, and I found this fascinating about you, is how you took, out of respect, your mother's name after your dad abandoned the family. And your mom sounds like a pretty remarkable woman. There's a lot of consultants out there that make a lot of money coaching kids into Harvard, but your mom figured out how to raise 2 of them.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I mean, she threatened to kill us. I mean, that's what moms do, which helps a lot. No, she's an amazing and motivated ass kicker. And when I saw her working as hard as she could just to keep the family together, that inspired me. When she didn't know much about Harvard or about college. But she did, have 2 beliefs, right? Number 1, she believed in her kids. And number 2, she also had a fundamental belief in the fairness of this country. That if, my kids keep their nose clean, they get good grades, that they're going to be able to succeed. And those are the 2 things that helped, I think, motivate her to push us. And, one of I tell this all the time on the campaign show, like, if you want to know a good example of the American dream, the American story, if you had gone to the little apartment that we were living in 25 years ago, it was me, my 3 sisters, and my mother. In that apartment, there was nobody with a college degree. 25 years later, if you come to one of our family dinners, and you better be ready because we're very loud, we have, 1, 2, 3, 4 college degrees, and fifth, because my mom went back to school and got her college degree after she put all the kids through. And then we also have another sister who has a master's degree. I have another sister who's a doctor and deals with blood cancer. So guess who's the real cool one in the family? It's not the congressman. I have a sister who runs a book publishing company. So this is a family that is successful because of a combination of a strong family unit led by a strong woman, but also there was a government at that point that also believed in kids like us, right? We were on the free lunch program. I went to school on Pell Grants, Stafford loans, work program. They believed in that kids that, didn't come from the best or the highest rung of society should have an opportunity to rise. And for that, I will always be grateful. And, it wasn't easy. We lived in an apartment. We sacrificed so we could stay in a better part of Chicago. We lived in a small suburb called Evergreen Park that had decent schools. And the only way we could afford to stay there was for someone to not have a bedroom. And so I slept on the floor for many years. And, college was my first bed in quite a while. And I was very excited about it. And, I think there's a lot, obviously, that could have gone better growing up, but it's also important to be grateful for what you have.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you never miss a video. Also, for more content just like this, please consider joining our Warning Premium community. You can find out more in the description below.